Okay, our next speaker is Randy Powell. He's from Charlotte, North Carolina. A little while back, he was going on YouTube and he saw one of Marco Rodin's videos and was so impressed that he went on a mission to find his original mathematics book, Aerodynamics, and he finally found it, I understand. He got involved in this research. He's now part of the Rodin team. He's essentially quality control systems engineer for the team. He's very into healthy food, exercise, and prayer. He shares faith with Marco. So let's please welcome Randy Powell.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, I guess I'm on. All right, I'd like to start, before I say anything about myself or what I'm doing, I want to give everybody an idea of where this is all coming from. So I always start, before I say anything else, by acknowledging three people without whom I wouldn't exist here or be here to speak to you. Most important, that this whole work is standing upon the foundation of a person who is known by the name of Baha'u'llah, who was the prophet of the Baha'i faith, which Marco has been part of since he was about 16 or 17. I was astonished. My background's in academics, is in actually religion, studying language, studied the Arabic language and the Abjad numerical system, which is how, which ties in with this work, but I'm going to not digress there first. So what I want to do first, I always acknowledge Baha'u'llah. I was astonished when I came to Baha'u'llah's writings, and these were done in the 1800s. I don't know, I'm ignorant, but I think around the 1850s. I was astonished. Many people say, I decrypted this and that out of such and such scripture, and I was astonished to find how detailed, actually in the writings, he was laying everything that you're going to hear about out. So let me begin. These are some quotes from a scripture. There's something like 15,000 scriptures revealed by Baha'u'llah in his lifetime. This is from one called the Suratul Haykal, which means the story of the temple meaning the human temple. It says, Thy sciences will attain the knowledge of God, the able, the supreme, the great. Verily the science which is attributed to myself is not known to anyone, nor will it be known to any soul, neither could it be endured by anyone of the world. Should we produce but one word of it, all the souls will be disturbed, the supports of all things be destroyed, and the feet of the accomplished will deviate. We have in our possession a science of which, should we convey but one word to the beings, everyone would be made to believe in the manifestation of God and his knowledge, and be acquainted with the secrets of all sciences, and attain a position whereby they would find themselves able to dispense with the sciences of both the ancients and the moderns. We have also other sciences, of which if we speak but a single letter, the people will not be able to hear its mention. Thus have we informed you of the science of God, the knower, the informed. Okay? Here's another part. We've made the sciences to appear from thee, and to thee shall we return them. And then they will be sent forth from thee for another occasion, as a promise on our part. Verily, we have been the doer. We shall raise up from the people of wonderful sciences and powerful arts, and will show forth from them that of which the heart of no servant could ever conceive. Thus we give to whomsoever we please that which we please, and take from one whom we desire that which we have given him. Okay, and I believe that what you're going to see here the rest of the afternoon is exactly that. Okay. Next important thing he says later in the scripture is, Verily we have caused the signs to descend after 9 conditions, each of which is a proof of the dominion of God, the protector, and the self-existent. Any of these conditions is sufficient to convince whosoever is in the heaven and earth, but the majority of the people are heedless. Had we willed, we would have revealed the signs after other conditions whose number could not be reckoned. Okay? And there was one more. This is maybe the most important. We have originated all the letters from the point, and to it we return them. Then we sent them forth in the form of the human temple. May the wonderful and admirable doer be exalted. We shall form a temple from it for another time in my name, Al-Abha, as a bounty on my part, and I am the most generous and ancient. We produced the lights from the sun of our name, the truth, and to it we returned them and made them appear after the form of the temple of man. May he be exalted, the able, the powerful, the mighty. No one prevented me from accomplishing my command, and no soul could ever intervene between me and my dominion and power. I am he who sent forth the contingent beings by my word, and I am the powerful over that which I will. Say verily, should we wish to take the spirits out of all things at one time and send them forth another time, we are indeed able. And no one knows this save God, the knower, the omniscient. Should we desire to show forth from an atom sons without beginning and without end, we are indeed able, and we can make them appear in a moment by my command. Should we please to produce from a drop of water the seas of the heaven and the earth, and from the letter the science of what was and is, we are indeed able, and verily it is an easy matter. Okay? Everything you're going to see, all the mathematics, everything comes from this word, Al-Abha. I spent my whole life searching for the most great name of God. I studied amongst mystical Middle Eastern traditions, Eastern traditions, everything I could get my hands on. And the whole idea behind this was to learn the names of God, to learn how to intonate them correctly, and there was supposed to be a hidden word, a hidden secret name that was the most great name that encompassed all the names. Little did I know at the time that somebody had already revealed it 150 years before I was even born. Okay? So when I came across Marco's work, it immediately became significant to me. So let me just go straight into that. What do? I push this thing to make it come up? Or you do that? So the name, is this on me too? Oh, you got it. There it is. It's coming. So this name, Al-Abha, there's something in Arabic and in most all the ancient sacred languages from the scriptures. In Arabic, it's called the Abjad numerical system. It means that there's a number. I'm sorry, you gave me the instructions and I screwed
There
up.
goes.
There it goes. Thank you. Every letter has a number. They do it in English too, but it's different because in the sacred languages, the vowels are never written. All right? The numbers have letters, and so every word has an equation. All right? Marco, what we're going to get to talking about, discovered all the math, all the science, all the technology, and all the miraculous things you're going to see from decrypting the most great name of God out of the Baha'i Scriptures. To me, above and beyond the discoveries that I made, the discoveries that everyone else is going to make, this is the most significant discovery of history for me. And so from that, I want to acknowledge the second person that I always acknowledge, which is Marco Rodin, who I respect more than pretty much anyone that I know, except maybe my mother. The respect that I hold for him is for this accomplishment, this achievement. And I wouldn't be standing here, and nothing that I accomplish or will accomplish or have accomplished would exist without his work, his lifelong dedication, and the tremendous suffering that he's had to endure to bring this to life. So I almost am ashamed to even stand here and tell you everything I'm going to tell you, but this has now become my responsibility. And the third person I always think, who's certainly not least, without which I would most definitely be dead, is my wife, Juliana, who unfortunately isn't here because she had to take care of our business at home. So let's move on because I don't have much time. This is a symbol everyone's familiar with called the caduceus. It's known as the medical symbol. I have a whole story behind this, but I don't have much time. I have videos online you can watch. When I was 5 years old, I became obsessed with the idea of trying to understand what the human soul looked like. And I've developed this belief, there's more details to it, but I developed this belief basically that it was this, because I saw it on a hospital. And I used to imagine that it lived inside my body. This was when I was like 5 years old, around the base of my spine. And then I imagined that when I would die and my body disintegrated, that it would fly up through my spine, fly out of the top of my head, the wings would open, and it would go to heaven, where it landed on Cloud 9, which I got from the show Bewitched, which was my favorite show when I was a little kid. And so I believed that it would land in heaven on Cloud 9, and that in this place, I had this profound mystical experience where I experienced eternity in an instant. And it was so mind-boggling to me and so baffling. In fact, it wasn't pleasant at all. It really terrified me. I spent really years in terror of this experience because it was so unbounded and profound to me. From that point on, of course, I lived mostly a normal childhood with the exception of that. I knew that it would take another form when it went into the other world, which is like this. It's seen in every culture, from the Mayans, the Egyptians, the Norse, the Chinese. It's called the Ouroboros. It's the snake eating its own tail. This form, I believe, was the form that these serpents would take in the next world. All right, so when I got a little older, I started getting interested in yoga, and I started reading, and I picked up this book and started reading it, and it was describing this whole thing about these snakes, look, the caduceus going up your spine and flying out of your head. And I was so unbelievably mind-blown by that I dedicated my life to understanding this. I knew at that moment, beyond all doubt, that I was part of something bigger than my own thoughts and my own imaginations, and I knew that this thing that I had as a kid wasn't what I call a vain imagination. It was an inspiration. It was a truth that I needed to uncover. So I began to search. I searched all the religions. I studied for years. I went through all these mystical traditions. By the time I came to Marco's work, the day I found Marco's work, actually, I read a scripture. And in the scripture it said, if you want to know the secrets of everything, you have to come before the infinite number 9. And it said, if you want to understand the number 9, you have to chant this word. And he gave this word. I'm not going to go into the details of that. But I said, what the heck? Let's do it. So I chanted the word all morning. Within 5 minutes, when I finished chanting, I got a phone call from a friend of mine who I see all the time, but he never calls me. We probably talked on the phone twice. He calls me in the early morning, of all things. He says, I don't even know why I'm calling you. Okay? I have no idea why I'm calling you right now, but I just came across this video of this guy, Marco Rodent, and I don't even know what the hell he's talking about, but I know it looks like something you would like. Okay? Within 5 minutes of watching Marco's video, and when he laid out this symbol right here, which he called the God's petroglyph. He said it was a mathematical decryption of the most great name of God. And that was all I needed to hear to know that this was my path for the rest of my life. So I began to really apply myself to it. And when I get, I'm speaking at a local TED conference this year. They asked me a question for an interview. They said, what's most important to success? Is it being smart or being hardworking? I said, neither. It's being obsessed. Completely, irredeemably obsessed. And that's what I was. So I began to really pour myself into it. And my goal here is to describe to you what this is, how to work with it, how you can build a technology with it, and then I'm honored to be working alongside people like Jack, who's going to present next, who's going to really do the kicker. This is a poster from Aerospace America. It took me a while to find it. Aerospace America 1988 was the first place, I believe, that Marco presented. And he presented his findings that you're going to hear all about at this conference. George Bush Sr. was the master of ceremonies. I wish I could have been there. I think I was about 9 years old at the time. Okay, here's the symbol. All right, it's pretty easy. Most people think I'm crazy when I start doing this, and I know you know what I'm talking about. It's a circle, right, with 9 numbers around it. We put 9 at the top. I'm sure you're aware by now, the most important topic of everything is the number 9. There's all this mysticism around the number 9. In every single religious tradition, whether it's in the Bible, in the Quran, and in the Hindu scriptures, the number 9 is venerated. The Norse, the Mayans, right? All my great Mayan pyramids are 9 levels. And anyone who's familiar with mysticism knows about this. What is the number 9? What does it represent? The number 9 represents a previously untapped, undiscovered energy. It's called by a lot of names. Actually, people are aware that it's there, but no one's been able to pinpoint it. No one's been able to really get accurate with it. It's called dark energy. Sometimes it's called monopole. It's called gravitons. We call it aetherons. And my preferred name and Marco's preferred name, we call it spirit. It's a conscious, living energy. It's coherent. But it's not just that, traditionally when people talk about the ether, they call it a loquacious jello, or it was something diffused throughout space. It's not. It's not everywhere all at once, and that's what's so significant. It's a pulse. It's a surge. It's a vector. It comes from the center of mass of everything, whether it's an atom, whether it's a galaxy, whether it's the Earth, whether it's any body of mass. It comes from the center. It comes from the zero. Oh, this is my pointer. Don't hit the wrong button. It comes from this, which is the zero. All right? It comes from the whole. It's characterized by the fact that it's linear. It doesn't bend. We know from relativity, everything with even a slight bit of mass, even a photon coming around the sun, is seen to warp and curve. Your DNA is a helix. Everything is a warp, but except for this energy represented by the number 9. It penetrates everything, can't be shielded, nothing can resist it. Sometimes it's referred to in the scriptures as the irresistible decree. No one can contradict it. It comes from the inside out. It's what makes things grow and live. It's the source of all time, motion, and vibration. It's the source of the non-decaying spin of the electron. And it is a non-decaying energy. It's eternal. It's a radiant emanation. It cannot ever be eliminated or gotten rid of. You'll never find absolute zero because there's always this energy present to some degree, creating some level of vibration and motion in anything with mass, because it is what imparts mass to matter. Okay? It's pushing everything forward. It's making life move forward, going in a one-way flow. So according to our system, you would never be able to travel back in time. You can speed up, you can move forward, but you can never go back. Okay? It keeps you moving forward by that irresistible decree. It's the secret of fusion, which we're going to talk about, of vortex motion. And it has the power to create what we call a localized space-time implosion. In other words, to create a man-made black hole. Right? It imparts and evenly distributes a perfectly coherent mathematical field that's over the surface topology of everything. And I'm certain beyond that. It's omnidimensional. We've had a lot of conversations this weekend. A lot of people talk about many dimensions. I don't know, string theory, they're talking about hundreds of dimensions or something. This is omnidimensional. I believe that the creator of the universe doesn't mince words and doesn't waste effort. Everything is perfect. It's done in its most concise and easiest way. That's what makes it perfect. Right? Everything complex is just man-made. It's contrivance. It's not refined. Okay? And it has to be based on this absolute coherence and simplicity. So if you don't understand what I'm saying, then what I'm saying is crap. Okay? So it is understandable to everyone, and it's not beyond anyone in this room, even the children, if they're here. It forms the upright axis. The 9 is always at the apex. The invisible spindle that everything is moving around, okay, that everything is warping and curving around. What characteristics does it have beyond this? What can we say about it mathematically? One thing that it is, it's the source of what are known now as fractals. The original book on fractals by Mandelbrot, from my understanding, the one at IBM, it won more mathematical awards than any book in history. The characteristics of fractals is that they're self-similar. And that's exactly what the number 9 is. No matter what you do to it, no matter how you multiply the number 9, if you reduce it back to a single digit, it always equals the number 9. So 9 times 2 is 18. 8 plus 1 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. 2 plus 7 is 9. 36, 9, 45, 54. You can go on. I won't waste the time. Why is that significant? Why would we reduce things to single digits? It's because we're looking for the underlying pattern. Underneath every endless mathematical sequence is a reducible pattern, whether it's Fibonacci or pi or anything, is a reducible whole number fractal. And that's what the 9 is. It's whole. It's complete. You can't add any more to it. It's filled up to the top. All right? It is everything. It has every attribute and property imaginable. And nothing can ever transcend it. You can never have, when you're reducing numbers, you can never get a greater number than 9. 9 is the highest of the single digits. Okay, so in this system, we're looking for perfection. We're looking for no redundancy. We're looking for the fact that nothing is ever omitted. All right, so this process of reducing numbers, it's not just numerology. It's not just, fringe science. It's done all over the place. Call it decimal parity. It's called digital roots in computer science. And in mathematics, it's called casting out 9s. So it's known. This is not the first time it's done. Okay, so I think I set you up pretty good with the number 9. So let's move on. Let's talk about some of these other numbers. What I want to start with first is this right here. This pathway, I start with 1. Everything in the physical world begins with 1 and returns to the 1. Okay? We have one universe. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called a universe. Okay? Ultimately, everything is connected. So we begin with the 1. 1, what does it do? What is its function? It doubles. Doubles a 2. What does 2 then do? If we follow this pathway, it doubles again. 2 doubled is 4. I'm just following the straight line. 4 doubles, it becomes 8. 8 doubles, it becomes 16, but there's a 7 here. But, again, digital roots, casting out 9s, 6 plus 1 is 7. All right, so we have our 7 here. Then I could say 16 doubled is 32. 3 plus 2 is 5. Or I could say 7 doubled is 14. 4 plus 1 is 5. It really doesn't matter how you do it. The answer is always the same. Okay? 32 doubled, though, just to continue, 8, 16, 32, which is 5. 32 doubled then becomes 64, which comes back to 1. I can keep going if you want. 128 comes back to 2. 256, back to 4. 512, 8. I won't go any further than that. 1024. Okay, one more. Why is that significant? Where do we see doubling? How about all over nature? Whether it's cell division, it's based on doubling. When you're conceived, 1 cells, 2, 4, 8, 16. Nuclear reactions are all based on doubling. Musical harmonics, scales, doubling. Okay? Everything in nature moves along this pathway of doubling. All right? So this is the significance of the 64. It's like pass and go. That's why there's 64 hexagrams in the I Ching or Mayan calendars. 64 is very significant. All right? It's because of this. It's crossing pass and go. All right? So this is like a steel rail, a train track that you can never get off in creation. We call it the bounded infinity. The universe, we believe, is ultimately bounded. It's on a treadmill. Okay? It begins and ends all at the same place, which is right at the center. All right? So the Big Bang is just one of these bangs coming out. Eventually, it will curve back and return to where it started. I'm going to talk about that a lot more, but let's look at the math a little more. Everybody's following me so far, I hope? Pretty easy. Let's go the other way, though, because we're talking about perfection, so we got to go a little deeper. Let's go the other way. If I take half of 1, what do I get? I got 0.5, which is 5. Half of 0.5 is 0.25, which equals 7. 0.125. Half of 0.25 is 0.125, which equals 8. Then you go 0.0625, which if you add them equals 4. You can go on and on the same in the opposite way, and you've got halving. You will never, ever break that pattern. You're always going to go doubling. You're always going to have halving here. And the pattern is always the same, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. All right? This, by the way, is also the binary code. So it's highly significant for computers. So we have doubling, we have halving. These 6 numbers represent the physical world of matter, which is why, ultimately, the underlying geometry of the physical universe is essentially hexagonal. All right? Because of these 6 nodal points. Because this right here is a perfect waveform. And as you're going to see in a minute, it's actually the shape of your DNA helix. Okay, so I talked about the 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. I talked about the doubling and halving. What about these other numbers? Well, I told you a little bit about the number 9. There's so much more we could say. How about these over here? We got 3 and 6. And, you know, they're totally different. I mean, it's like they end out here in the middle of nowhere, which nothing physical ever does. Nothing physical ever ends in the middle of nowhere. It always returns. So this 3 and 6, well, let's try some of these functions with them. The claim of this math is you can do every function possible. All the branches of math, you can combine them together, and you can do every function possible, and it's all whole numbers, all 1 through 9. If you can count, you can do it. I'm no genius, okay? I'm just obsessed. So the number 3 is, what happens if we double 3? 3 doubled is 6, right? Pretty easy. 6 doubled is 12, which reduces back to 3. 12 doubled is 24, which comes back to 6. 24 doubled is 48, which comes back to 12, which is 3. 48 doubled, what is it? 96, which is 6. No matter how far you go, 3, 6, 3, 6, 3, 6, they're oscillating back and forth. These numbers represent magnetism. All right? Essentially, everything is based on thirds. So, when we're looking at the system, what we're modeling is 3 parts. We have this pathway of harmonic doubling. We could say it's a pathway of electricity. It's a pathway of any continuous medium, and it makes a vortex. The 3 and 6 are magnetism, oscillation, polarity. And the 9 is always at the center of magnetism. That's so significant. Magnetism, we know, goes to center. And the 9 is the energy at the center of magnetism, and it's the control for magnetism. And I believe, what was it from? The Twilight Zone? The saying was, he who controls magnetism controls the universe. And so this is the way that you control magnetism. Let me show you a little more. I'm going to start moving a little faster. If you don't retain it all, it's okay because they're recording this. I have less time than I thought I did. So I'm going to go really fast, but you can buy the DVD, you can support Steve and all these wonderful people, and you can listen to it over and over. Plus, I have a lot of videos online you can watch. Okay, so the next step, what was I going to say? Numbers equal the field. Here's something interesting. It took me like a couple of months to figure this out. I don't know why. Look at this. 1 plus 2 is what? 3, right? Notice that this angle here, from the 9 to 3, I'm going to call that angle my 3, okay? So everything going at this angle, notice all these lines, this one, this one, this one, this one, they're all parallel. I can do parallel lines in the other way too. All parallel. All my fields are parallel, which is really significant for these coils that we're building. 1 plus 2 is 3, which is at the angle of the 3. Okay? 8 plus 4 is 12, which is 3, again, at the angle of the 3. 7 plus 5 is 12, which is 3, again, at the angle of the 3. And 6 is 12, which is 3. How about the other way? 8 and 7 is 15, which is 6, at the angle of the 6. Okay? So amazing. It's so simple. So amazing. 1 plus 5, 6, at the angle of the 6. 2 plus 4 is 6, and 3 and 3 is 6. That's because this field, this magnetic field, or what's more properly called a flux field, because it's controlled by this pulse, by this energy, all these numbers, this motion, always equals the field, even though they're all at unique angles. There's no redundancy. Okay? This field is spreading everything apart. It's giving everything its form, its shape, its geometry. And it's causing everything to be separated by thirds. All right, I just want you to ingrain this notion in your mind. You don't have to comprehend it all yet, but you're going to see in graphic detail what I'm talking about. Everything is separated by thirds. That separation by thirds creates what we call family number groups. Okay? Family number groups are always separated by thirds, and they have a unique function. So our family number groups are then going to be, this 1 is going to be, what happens if I add 3 to 1? 1 plus 3 is what? 4. Okay? 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 plus 3 is then 10, which comes back to 1. 10 plus 3 is 13, which is 4. 13 plus 3 is 16, which is 7. You can do it any way you want. It's always going to form this unbroken 1, 4, 7, 1, 4, 7. If I go the opposite way, remember that's my 3 right here. If I go the opposite way, I'm going to use 6s. So 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 plus 6 is 13, which is 4. I could say 4 plus 6 is 10, or I could say 13 plus 6 is 19, which comes back to 1. All right? So 3 represents forward motion. 6 is the backdraft, it's backward motion. Okay? It's a counter motion, counterbalancing. That gives what are called family number groups. When we're doing the coils, which I'm going to show you very clearly on the torus, this is giving us activation stages, sequence orders, which are really significant to understand time, to understand motion, vibration. Everything has to have a sequence, and it happens in thirds. Just for the sake of it, let's do the 2, 5, and 8, which are the other numbers that I left out. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11, which is 2. And you can go on. If you go by threes, you're always going to go 2, 5, 8, 2, 5, 8. I go backwards in 6. 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 plus 6 is 14, which is 5. 14 plus 6 is 20, which is 2. They're always separated by 3s, forward, 6, backwards. Okay? Then we have the 9, 3, and 6 is our other family number group. Okay? So we have 1, 4, 7s, 2, 5, 8s, 9, 3, and 6. When I say that spirit is not everywhere at once, this is why. There's a sequence order. Okay? Because of these family number groups, we get another phenomena, which we call polar number pairs. Now, I told you the 9 here is our vertical axis. It's dividing everything apart. Okay? So we're actually going to assign polarity to numbers. We're going to polarize the numbers. When the 1 is positive, my 8 is going to be negative. When my 2 is positive, my 7 is going to be negative. When my 4 is positive, my 5 is going to be negative. On the opposite side, directly across, horizontally aligned, you're always going to have polar opposites. You're going to have parity. And I'm going to show you how that actually creates mirror symmetry, which we see all over nature, especially in our own bodies. We see it in all kinds of geometric forms in nature, because numbers actually are geometry, which was never understood before in mathematics. Okay, so let me move forward. There you see the DNA helix. You can see that's that same shape equation, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. Pretty amazing. You don't see the 3, 9, and 6 because they're an invisible field. But when Marco did the initial equations, when he filled in these numbers, he found actually, and he contacted, I don't remember who it was, but he contacted a very famous professor who actually confirmed for him that there was a magnetic field existing right here in DNA. And we believe that's what's controlling all the expressions of the genes and controlling actually and structuring the DNA itself in that shape. There's Crick, the DNA helix. Okay, here's my next point. I told you these number pairs are polar. And so when my 1 is positive, my 4 and my 7 is going to be positive, because my family number groups are always either positive or negative at the same time. And so when my 1, 4s, and 7s are positive, my 2, 5, and 8s are going to be negative, which gives me a flow along my doubling, what we call a doubling circuit. It's a circuit because it's a pathway of motion. It gives me a positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. Okay? And everything in nature moves from positive to negative, positive to negative. Okay? I'm sure this audience, I don't have to emphasize that point too hard. What happens when we do multiplication tables? All right? If I do multiples of 1, I'm going to go up in increments of 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's pretty easy, right? Anybody not understand that? Okay, and then it's just going to repeat. 10 is going to be 1, 11 is going to be 2, 12 is going to be 3. That pattern will repeat over and over again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, what happens to the 8? 8 times 2 is 16, which is 7. 8 times 3 is 24, which is 6. 2 and 4 is 6. 8 times 4 is 32. Wait, 8, 2, 3, 4, 32, which is 5. 40, which is 4. 48, which comes back to 3. Okay? So 8 is going to do the exact mirror image opposite pattern as 1 because it's its polar opposite. So when 1's going up, 8's going down. Okay? It's mirror symmetry motion. Okay? This is something that's eluded modern science in many ways for a long, long time. So I find it to be very significant to be able to mathematically model symmetry in such a simple way. So when 1 goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 8 is the mirror of it. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 9. How about 2? This is where you really get the sense of the perfection here. 2 times 2 is 4, 6, 8, 10 is 1, 12, 3, 14, 5. So it goes 2, 4, 6, 8, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. I'm going to spare the calculations now so I move faster. I feel like everybody's following me on that, right? So 2 is going to go up in increments of 2, and 7 is going to go down in increments of 2, which is 7, 14, which is 5, 21, 3, 28, 1. It goes 7, 5, 3, 1, 8, 6, 4, 2, 9. All right? And you can go back over this, so you don't have to get it all. 4 is the same thing. 4, 8, 12 is 3, 16, 7. So it goes 4, 8, 3, 7, 2, 6, 1, 5, 9. 5 does the same thing backwards. 5, 1, 6, 2, 7, 3, 8, 4, 9. Everyone gets overwhelmed when you say that too fast, but it's pretty easy. Okay, so you get mirror symmetry, and there's 3 different groups, right? I've got this one, 1 and 8, I got 2 and 7, and I got 4 and 5. These are actually going to give you your axes spatial orientation, which is what? Up, down, left, right, front, and back. Okay? Nothing esoteric or paranormal about that. Everyone's experiencing these all the time. All right? So you can actually use multiplication system. The beauty of this discovery is that multiplication tables are not flat. They're not dead. I don't even like to call them numbers because they're not numb. They're actually, we should call them livers because they're really alive. And numbers are alive and they're real. They really exist. They're not arbitrary. I went to exhaustive efforts. There's been other claims about other base systems saying, I went to exhaustive effort to show this base system, base 10 system, is fundamental to nature. It does things which no other base system can ever do, no matter what. And I've been warned not to make such definitive statements this weekend, but I'm putting myself out on a limb because I want my work to be criticized. So I'm saying the base 10 system is fundamental to nature. We don't have 10 fingers because we don't have a base 10 because we count on 10 fingers. It's actually fundamental to nature. We actually have 5 fingers on each hand in a mirror symmetry because of halving. Okay? All right, so I think we all got that pretty well. What else can we do with this? How about we have another property we call inverse reciprocals, well known in mathematics. It's really important. Let me just show you a little bit of this. Again, I'm going to move quickly. I hope I'm doing okay on time. All right. 1 times 1 is what? Anybody got it? Yeah. 1. All right. I like that. It's fast. Let's move in 1 increment in each direction. Okay, so I'm going to go this way and this way. 5 times 2 is what? 10, which is 1. Okay, let's do it again. So I'm going to go now to my 7, and from my 2, I'm going to go to my 4. 7 times 4 is 28, which is what? 1. And then we go from the 4 to the 8, from the 7 to the 8, and the 8 times 8 is 64, which is 1. You always, wherever you start, this is because this energy is penetrating through. There's actually a point, a nodal point. Every place where these lines move in a different direction is a nodal point on a wave. It's a crest. It is an actual reality that exists that's causing this warp to happen. Ooh, I hope I didn't kill your laser pointer. There it is. So no matter which way we go, we call these reciprocals. Your 2 and your 5 are reciprocals, which is very significant in the most great name. 7 and 4, is also significant, and the 8 and 8, which is significant too. They all come back to 1, but I'm not going to stop there. I'm not going to let you off that easy. Let's go to the next one. I'm going to start with 2 here. 2 times 2 is what? 4. 1, and then I go 1 this way, 1 that way. 1 times 4 is 4. I'm going to go here and there. 5 times 8 is 40, which is 4. 7 times 7 is 49, which is 4. You can do this with any of the numbers. I'm going to not do it, but try it out. You can start with 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 8 times 2 is 16. Okay, you can continue like that, which is, it all comes back to 7. So my 2 and my 5 are reciprocals. My 7 and my 4 are reciprocals. And 8 is its own reciprocal as well as 1, which is why 1 and 8 have very unique properties. Okay, so we can do that with any number. It means any number can serve as a control. I'm showing you a circle based on multiples of 1. If I go back to that other image, this is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I could just as easily go, and I didn't have the images here, but I could go 2, 4, 6, 8, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, doing multiples of 2 around a circle. When you look at this image, if I go to the next stage out, I keep thinking I'm wired to something, but I'm not. If I go to my next stage out, look, it's 2, right here, 2, 4. There would be a 6 here, you don't see it, 8. And then we're going to go 1, 3, 5, 7, and back to the 9. So not only are my multiplication tables going out in straight lines, they're also going around in circles. Okay? Multiplication tables are 2 things. They're straight lines and they're circles. Really easy. It's like kindergarten. And what happens here when I move from one stage, my 1 is my control. When I go to the next stage, is that me? Go to my next stage, what happens to the 1 and 8 here? This is the last point I'm going to make on this, and I want you to really think about this. Up here in my first stage, my 1 and my 8 are right here. In my next stage, when I have multiples of 2, what happens to the 1 and 8? The 1 goes from here, it goes down here. And the 8 goes from here, it goes down there. Notice that they switch sides. They invert. Why do they invert? Because they cross the center. I think this thing is dead. But you see the center where the lines cross. That represents an inversion point. It's where everything turns upside down. It goes from counterclockwise to clockwise. And when they move up, they stay on the same side. It's only when you cross the center that things invert. You got a battery? All right. It's only when they cross that things invert. And so if you look at this, and my friend BJ here is going to help me animate this. We're going to have a meeting about this tonight. If you look at this, it's actually making a vortex with numbers. And they're going like this. They come up, around, they invert. Your multiplication tables are modeling a physical torus, a vortex. Okay? I have one last thing to say about this, and then I'm going to move to the torus, which you see right there. Last thing I want to say, I said before, numbers are geometry. I didn't qualify that, so I want to explain what I meant. Okay? I want you guys to answer my question without me even giving you the answer. What geometry is the number 3? Triangle, right? How about the number 6? A hexagon. That's pretty. The 9 is a little harder. It's kind of hard. It's right here. I'll give you a hint. It's right here. It's a perfect diamond. All right? These 3 shapes are fundamental to creation. Every other geometry, here's another definitive statement I'm going to make. Every other geometry imaginable, creatable, possible, is based on these 3 geometries, the triangle, the hexagon, and the diamond. All right? When you model other geometries, they're from combinations, interrelations of these, and you can get very complex with it. I've just been shown some really complex ones. So those geometries, this is why the underpinning, I'm going to skip that one and that one and that one for right now. This is the shape. Let me go here first. Before I do that, we're going to come back. Don't worry. Okay, here's some images from Cymatics, which you're familiar, vibrating a medium, could be water, could be sand. And at certain nodal points, certain frequencies, you get specific geometries. And you can see very clearly right there the geometry of a hexagon. 6 vectors, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, as you get more complex, well, other things happen, but they're all based on this shape of the hexagon. Okay? It's the most commonly seen form in nature. Here's various versions of it. They're all based on the hexagon. Even you can get 12 vectors, you could get 18 vectors, you could get 24 vectors, but they're all based on overlaid hexagons, depending on your frequency. All right? And then we're talking about frequency circle of fifths, but I'm going to skip that too. Look at that. Right on top of Saturn, I'm sure many of you have seen this, a giant hexagon. No one has been able to explain that. I think NASA first viewed it like 20-some years ago. And it's so large you could fit 4 Earths inside of it. A perfect hexagon on the surface of Saturn. Okay? Every snowflake you're ever going to see, they're all hexagonal. Okay? They may all be unique, they may all be fractals, they may all be different, but they're all hexagons. Okay? This is structured water, showing again the image of the hexagon. Beehives, hexagon packing, the most structurally sound design. Amazing watching bees do this. Again, the hexagon. There's another image of cymatics, perfect hexagons, hexagons. Okay, so now let me go back. So I talked about the hexagon. The hexagon exists because the triangle, the number 3, remember I said the 3 was forward motion. The triangle is an arrow. It's a vector. It's pointing the way. And because of its movement out, you get a negative backdraft. You get a polar opposite. Okay? And that is the source, really, of gravity. In our system, gravity is not a force. It's a result. Force is radiant, positive emanation. And because of this emanation radiating out, you get a negative backdraft counter space. And that's what gravity really is. So if you're trying to overcome gravity, that becomes a really significant point. So now we're going to take these numbers and we're going to do something else. And we've been just showing you this 2D symbol on a flat image. Now we're going to take it and turn it into a 3D image. When I get close, if somebody can give me a cue, how much time do I have? Just so I know.
Got about 12 minutes.
12 minutes, wow. Okay. We're going to go fast now. We're going to turn these numbers in what we call quantum numbers, which means we're going to take every number and we're going to assign it to a particular geometric space. The definition here is that numbers have 3 qualities: geometric, spatial, and volumetric. Okay? Essentially, they're describing angle and ratio. Always, everyone is unique. So when we take quantum numbers, we're actually taking the numbers and assigning every number to a tile, and we're giving them polarity. A number is positive when it's being penetrated by the energy of the number 9. The number 9 imparts positive charge to the numbers. And then when they're charged positively, like here, they move through the space, which is negative. Notice at an angle, and everything moves at an angle. And that symbol, all your motion is angular momentum. Nothing in physical world ever moves in a straight line. It's always being warped and curved. So here, this is what Marco called the mathematical fingerprint of God. He took the numbers and he applied them into these tiles. And what you can see, it's so easy. You just have your multiplication system. Here's your vertical axis. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No matter where I go, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4. Multiples of 1 going this way. Multiples of 8 are going the other way. So if I go to my negatives, I got 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Okay? Then I've got, if I go this way and that way, I've got multiples of 4 and 5. 5, 10, which is 1, 15, which is 6, 20. And multiples of 4 are going that way. What about the z-axis? Okay, so I have my vertical axis, I have my horizontal axis. Those are very easy to see. The z-axis is always invisible. It's actually coming out at you. All right? And so when we take this form and we interlace all these axes together, we put, I don't know if that's the right term, We put them together, we get this. When you connect the ends of the tiles, when you connect it all together, you get this. This is, has been called the Rodent Tourist. I call it the Abha Tourist because it's based on the description of the name Abha. You get this torus. Now, this is where things are going in different directions, where I've taken a different path on this. So I want you to know that what I'm saying from here on out, I'm speaking for myself, and it's up to my peers to critique my work and to determine whether or not I'm right or wrong. This torus is, again, a hugely fundamental shape to nature. You can see the galaxies in the shape of a torus. There's another one. Okay? Hurricanes, tornadoes, they're vortexes. They're the shape of a torus. Your blood cells are in the shape of a torus. This is something called sonoluminescence. Okay? When I talk about the more technical aspects of this, these are really significant. In the center of this bubble, this is an imploding bubble of water. In the center, right here, they reach up to temperatures up to 5,000 degrees Celsius, and yet you could have your hand right on the outside of that and you wouldn't feel a thing. When we're talking about fusion, the whole problem with fusion is controlling the heat. I was just reading an article about fusion reactor in Europe. They have to keep these huge vats of water constantly to try and keep it cool. I believe that we have the secret to controlling the heat, being able to concentrate the heat in the center, the fire, the energy in the center, and to use magnetism to cool the surface topology so that you could have extreme temperatures very close to you and you wouldn't feel a thing. There's a dolphin. I love dolphins. They use their sonar to make toroids in the water. It's been pretty popular phenomenon lately. There's one in aloe vera. You can see that diamond grain pattern. This is your DNA, actually. DNA taking the shape of a torus. Okay? These are showing the activation stages. That's that linear energy coming out, activating those numbers, causing them to move at an angle this way, always this way, spiraling. The linear energy hits matter, it deflects matter, and it causes it to warp and to curve in the shape of this torus. There's those cymatics images. You can see that diamond grain very clearly again. It's a circle of fifths. I won't bother with that. Jamie's going to explain that to you. There's more. You can always notice here, I should point it at that thing. These things are always separated by thirds on any axis. Remember I told you everything's separated by thirds. Here it is. I know this is not too clear, but there's one moment of activation. If I go 1, 2, my next third is activated. 1, 2, 3. If I go to the side, 1, 2, 3. All of them are always separated by thirds, but it gives you a positive and negative at an angle that's unbroken. Okay? These form circuits that connect back to themselves, and they're the most accelerated, least resisting pathway you can take in nature. That's your heartbeat, not your heartbeat, but someone's heartbeat, showing that the heartbeat itself is actually fractal. Here's an activation stage in the torus. Okay? These are the numbers when they're activated. At this stage, the 3, 9, 6s are activated. I'm always activating in family number groups. Check out my videos online. I go into a lot of detail about this. Here's the northern view of it. So you can see it's imploding counterclockwise in accordance with the equation. It's exploding clockwise. Okay? These are other images. These now it becomes the most important phenomenon. And this is where my work has taken another turn. And you're going to see when Jack demonstrates his coils, you're going to see what this means. These little blocks of diamonds that I've sectioned off are what we call underpinning nested vortices. They're the most significant and most hardest to understand part of all of this. In fact, I'm claiming that they have never been understood until this current work that I'm doing. And that's what I really dedicated my life to, was understanding these underpinning nested vortices. An analogy is dimples on a golf ball. Sunspots are these. What's another analogy? We had some others yesterday. Let's just say sunspots. That's a good one. They're vortices that are focused on the center. They stabilize the torus. They make it so that it can't even tilt. It will never tilt. It always maintains a perfectly upright vertical axis. And it forms a vertical lift propulsion system, because it contains an imploding black hole at the top, an exploding white hole at the bottom, which is a self-sustained, we call it a hysteresis loop. Somebody else earlier today was talking, I think that was Greg, was talking about hysteresis. We call it a hysteresis loop. It's a closed system. And we're claiming that nature is a closed system. All right? By harnessing these nested vortices, by understanding their pathways, which I am now defining as a nested vortices circuit, by understanding their pathways and their sequence orders, here's another image showing those vortices. Some of them are positive, they're swirling out. Some of them are negative, swirling in. If you can harness these nested vortices, you can actually steer this spaceship. And I know the secret of how to sequence them. And it's the hardest part. I'm not going to try to explain that today. But I want to tell everybody before I get cut off, I'm going to be giving a workshop in my hotel room after this. We didn't set a time, but get with me after this. We're going to try to work it out so everybody can come to the hotel room. If you're further interested in this, we'll continue with it. These are the nested vortices. This is the secret of the whole thing. If you know how to use this, you can steer it. You can make it do whatever you want. All right? There's the numbers. Applying numbers now not just to the circuits, but to the nested vortices, giving them a secret. 2 minutes. All right, let's keep going. There's another image. These are illustrations that I did of these nested vortices sequences. Notice that the electricity or the energy, the medium, is still moving in this direction, but you get this almost counter-looking spiral in the sequences. That's very significant to how it stabilizes. All of these, when they're activated, remain in quadrature, and I actually made a unique discovery. Wow, there's so much more. I made a unique discovery that these circuits are actually, when they're sequenced, they're interlaced doubling circuits. I can show you. Here's a positive 1. If I go 1, 2, 3, negative 2. 1, 2, 3, positive 4. 1, 2, 3, negative 8. I can go all the way around the torus and connect it back to itself, and they're sequencing as doubling circuits. So they have their own harmonic motion. That creates this. These are called spires. They're very commonly seen. These are what people are seeing in like the Fibonacci spirals, I believe. They're spirals. They're the nested vortices sequencing from positive to negative, to positive to negative, positive to negative. And they form spirals over spirals that make the system perfect. Here's another one showing pentagonal geometry from the sequencing of these nested vortices where they connect back to themselves. They form the shape of a pentagon. These are now 3D images of my own work that I actually figured out using another method, and then finally, right before I came here, had somebody actually do it in 3D for me, and it proved that the pathways I was saying. These are where you're going to see, and we'll discuss this in Jack's presentation, where my designs, I don't like to call them my designs, I'm just following the language of the Rodent Tourist. So the design of what I believe is the Rodent Tourist, where it differs is that the Rodent Tourist design, from my perspective, is not a bifiliar coil. Those of you who are familiar with the traditional rodent coil, it's a bifiliar coil. It contains 2 conductors, 2 pathways. I believe if you only have 2 pathways, the nested vortices will never be able to sequence, and you cannot control the torus. You will not be able to steer it. You won't be able to fully activate it because the nested vortices don't have pathways of motion that they can take that connect back to themselves. So these are showing different combinations of numbers. I'm just showing one pathway and how it connects back to itself. Okay? This is, if you do a different sequence of number, well, it does something totally different. I now have an algorithm where any combinations of numbers on any torus, I can give you every single quality of it. How many numbers it has, how many vortices it has, what are the pathways, and there's variation. This is how you begin to model the periodic table, which is the work I'm doing right now. I believe that I know the secret of how to model the periodic table, how you can go from one element to another, starting with lighter, going to heavier, how you can explain why they have more mass, what is their gravitational aspects. There's so many things. So these are showing various toruses that I did. This is from Marco's original work. One of the other significant parts of this math is that you can scale it up and down to infinity and never break the pattern. I figured out also how to do that with the nested vortices, how you can scale their sequences up and down to infinity and never break the fundamental pattern. So that then again showing that it is fractal. There again showing the nested vortices moving along the surface of the toroid. There's the center, we call that toroidal pinch. And this is again from Marco's original work. there's another one from Marco's original book showing the sequences of the nested vortices. So it's something that he was doing before. I just took a different perspective on it, and I think we're now in the process of discussing those things and how they work, which we were doing until about 4 in the morning, which is probably why I'm having such confusion up here. All right, there's more images. There's the DNA helix showing the flux field in the center. Some more images. These are Marco's of DNA. And then the nested vortices become significant here because depending on how they align, if they're staggered, like bricks in a house, they make the torus rigid. They make it hold together. They make it so it can't break apart. If they're lined up, like in DNA, they allow it to unravel, which is called sister strand unraveling. Let's see. These are other base systems. I won't even go there. These are illustrations that I did. There's Scott Nelson's work on the pyramid. We can talk about these things in the workshop if people are interested, why other base systems are not the same as the base 10 for mathematics people. And there's my home city, Charlotte. This picture was the most emailed photo on the day that it was taken. It was taken on Marco's birthday, and Marco and I spoke on the phone that day. And this was taken at the time when we were talking on the phone. It was a double rainbow over my city, and I thought it was beautiful, so I thought I'd end my presentation there. And I'm sorry I didn't get through all the details of the nested vortices sequencing, of what's unique. You will be seeing more of that with Jack's coil and seeing some of the experimental results that through Jack's really brilliant work he's been able to show how some of these different geometries are functioning. So I don't know if I have any more time. I'm happy to take questions or to address anything else that anyone is interested in.
Well, for questions, I think we're probably gonna need to take those, field those outside. Randy, I thought there was something that you wanted to play the last